Welcome back. Nakalaro na ang 16 teams na nakapasok sa NBA playoffs. So far, may 3 lower seeds na ang nanakaw ang series opener sa home court ng kanilang mga higher seed na kalaban. Kasama natin ngayon ang NBA.com Philippines Managing Editor, ang aming boss, si Adrian Dy. Boss ng mga vloggers. Para
Still not gonna get used to that.
Yeah, I know. Masanay ka na, boss. Okay, let's talk about the first round. We're finally underway. Everybody couldn't wait for the real thing to happen, the playoffs. Pag-usapan mo natin yung mga surprises.
Sure.
When we say surprises, yung mga naka-upset na lower seeds sa higher seeds. Siguro let's start with the Utah Jazz winning it at the buzzer against the Clippers. How do you see that series? Ito yung 4 and 5 sa West na either way could have
medyo close,
anyways, either one could have edged each other out for the home court. But would you call it an upset?
I think for me, just when you hear the news that Rudy Gobert went down within the first 17 seconds, parang when you hear that, parang ay, wala na to. But you look at the game, they were able to come back. They went small, which I thought was really interesting. Because if Gobert were there, Gobert would be matched up against DeAndre Jordan, dalawang defensive centers. But going small, putting Favors in there, he can shoot the mid-range jumper. Putting Boris Diaw in there, he can also shoot the mid-range jumper. For me, that sort of made things a bit more interesting because the Clippers cannot just automatically put Jordan there at the 5.
Right. Interesting. Well, and you're talking about a Jazz team that has very minimal experience compared to what the Clippers have gone through all these years. How big was it for them to snatch game 1 and still have that hope of beating an experienced team in a 7-game series?
Well, you talk about experience, that they brought in Joe Johnson specifically to give them that experience. Yes. And so having him play a big game, a big efficient game off the bench when Gordon Hayward was not exactly on with his shot, when George Hill was not taking that many shots. So having him come in as a sort of the closer was really huge for them. And the longer they stretch out the series, even if they don't win the next few games immediately, just stretching it out, it increases the chances na babalik si Rudy Gobert by maybe game 6 or game 7. So that's important for them.
Okay, let's shift our attention to the Bucks upsetting the Raptors as well. This is a big one kasi medyo tambak. 14 points pa talaga. Giannis was a beast with 28 points. And this is something that a lot of the purists are looking at talaga. Na the casual fans would enjoy the Rockets. The Rockets and Thunder. And then, but for those who want to see how this guy can play in the playoffs, ito yung masaya. So 28 points for Giannis with 8 rebounds, 3 assists. And he led his team beating the Raptors. What can you say about the Bucks?
Parang coming out party for him, actually, when you think about it. As you mentioned, this might be the first time that a casual fan will encounter Giannis Antetokounmpo. And to see him like that, my favorite part, there's a shot of him, I saw a picture where he was dunking and he still had 1 foot on the ground. So can you imagine the wingspan of that player, diba?
So he actually was tiptoeing lang.
Oh, so that was really amazing. But I mean, when you look at that series, a lot of bloggers and writers online were saying that Toronto has a chance to get to the finals this season. But for me, what was holding me back was last season when you saw them in the playoffs, Lowry shot really poorly, DeRozan shot really poorly. Teams have sort of figured out na if you throw your entire defense at those two guys, the Raptors' offense really struggles. It grinds to a halt. And so with all that length on the Milwaukee Bucks team, they were able to do that. Now, I think the Raptors have a really hard chance, a really hard time in the series. I predicted them winning in 7. But when you look at that game, you might actually think that it's actually very possible that the Bucks will upset them.
Yeah, and probably win in a closer series, but baka 6 games or what, no? The 1 versus 8 is always something that rarely you see upsets. Na in my mind, iconic yung when the Seattle Supersonics back then.
I think the Warriors and the
Warriors,
Mavericks.
with Sila Mutombo as well. Okay, but the Bulls were 8, the Celtics number 1, but weird circumstances. Of course, very tragic, the loss of Isaiah Thomas, his sister. Still, he had a great game, and so did the Celtics. But how did the Bulls pull this one out of the hat?
Mostly rebounding, actually. If you look at the game, Robin Lopez and Bobby Portis had huge games. Portis just missed a double-double. Lopez had a double-double. The rebounding has really been the struggle of the Celtics this season. They thought that, and I think casual fans, when they hear in the offseason, they got Al Horford. Uy, yun na yun. It fills in that gap. But if you actually look at the Hawks series in the past, in the playoffs, it's actually Paul Millsap who gets the majority of the rebounds for that team and not Horford. So that hole is still there for the team. And when Isaiah Thomas is not on the court, the Celtics really struggle to produce points. So in this case, the Bulls won in a great game. But I think it really depends on whether or not we see Thomas decide if he's going to attend the wake of his sister.
Yeah,
because
so that might mean he'll miss a game.
Exactly,
Yes,
and you know these are the things you can't really factor in going into a series.
Yeah.
So I mean that series might be up in the air right now, given the off-the-court issues of what's happening.
And I was reading up on this, and Brad Stevens was saying he's not even going to ask Isaiah what he's going to do. He's just going to wait. If he says, I'm going to play, I'm going to play. If he says, I have to go, he'll go and let him go. So we'll see how that unfolds. Okay, the 4 and 5 of the West is another fascinating matchup. The Wizards against Atlanta. Washington winning this one, 114-107. Is this another one of those tight ones that we're going to expect when you say 4 and 5? Is it really going to be that tight?
I actually think the Wizards have a huge advantage in this one, primarily because of the point guard matchup. John Wall has really matured this season into such a great floor general. And you contrast that with who's running the show for the Atlanta Hawks. It's Dennis Schroeder, who's a younger guy. He's still kind of struggling to find that on-court maturity and leadership. And so when you look at the game kanina, Schroeder had a good game, but he really had a hard time getting his teammates involved. If you look at Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kent Bazemore, they didn't have really great shooting nights. You contrast that with the Wizards, the entire starting five finished in double figures. So that really just shows how balanced that squad is, especially with Wall in charge.
All right, now battle of the MVPs, the Rockets of Harden and of course Westbrook and the Thunder. Maybe not the output that people expected from Westbrook and the Thunder as well. I mean,
unless you're a Thunder hater
or a Rocket
hater.
fan. But still, I mean, you know, some would say Rockets might obviously have the edge of the third seed, but still, I don't think all these games will go this way. But how surprised were you that they were able to, you know, limit Westbrook somehow to 6 of 23 and have him in such an inefficient game?
I was pretty surprised because if we look at the first half, things were pretty back and forth between the two teams. But then in the second half, the Rockets really sort of locked in and were able to exploit their, and this surprised me honestly, the big men and the defense of the Rockets were much better compared to Thunder. We expected the Thunder to lean on Adams, to lean on Taj Gibson, to really sort of choke off that interior attack of the Rockets. But in this case, and Adam said after the game, he admitted that he had a really poor game. So those two guys have to show up, because if your entire attack is to get Westbrook going, but then the defense is shedding a large amount of points on the other end, you're never going to win that way.
Right. And interesting to see Mike D'Antoni after the game said, we don't ever worry about our offense.
We're
actually a defensive-oriented team. Wow.
Who knew?
Because he knows when the offense is going to come in. That's not a word. We'll score 120, 115 points every game. It's whether or not we can limit the opponent to less than 100. And
Mike.
They did just that. Okay. No surprises for you for the way the Spurs and the Grizzlies went? In terms of that matchup?
I actually thought the Grizzlies would push this to maybe 7 games. And when it started, that Conley-Gasol combo was really potent. But then you look at the team, and when they get to the bench, they don't actually have a lot of other options. Carter struggled, Zach Randolph struggled, and then they don't have Tony Allen, who I actually thought that they could be able to move past that injury. But then when you look at the way they played, they don't really have a lot of scoring options off the bench. And when you contrast it with the Spurs, who are bringing Pau Gasol off the bench and Patty Mills, I think they're actually the biggest key in this series is Tony Parker. Because
I was about to say,
you know, some people thought that he was old and like he wouldn't be able to be productive.
But he has a playoff switch.
Yep, he does.
Apparently,
And he outplayed Conley down the stretch. So that's really important for the Spurs.
Very interesting. Okay, the Warriors tabla at halftime against the Blazers, and they allowed the two guys, CJ and Dame, to 28 points. 48 points combined, 27-21. Grabe yun. But then they locked down in the second half and then showed them real Warriors ball.
Well, we talk about flipping the switch. I think Draymond Green just said, no, we're good. We're going to win from this point on.
He's got a switch.
A lot of people have him penciled in as the Defensive Player of the Year. I kind of agree with that. And you saw it in this game, just how versatile he was. He was able to block guys at the rim, and at the same time, he's creating for teammates. He had 9 assists. He came up just short of a triple-double, 5 blocks, 3 steals. He's a Swiss Army knife, basically. And when he's on the game, you kind of actually forget that they have Durant dropping 30-plus points, that they have Curry dropping 29, because when the Warriors concentrate on defense, it's just as scary as when they're concentrating so much on offense.
All right. Now, the defending champions, Cleveland Cavaliers, sputtered to second spot, only in the East, and almost dropping this game. How worried should the Cavs and the Cavs fans be with the the 17-point fourth quarter output and allowing the Pacers to almost steal game 1.
It's weird because when you look at it, one of the big stats that they were really deficient in was free throw shooting. I think they were only like 52%.
Ouch.
And as a champion team, you know that those are free points basically.
Libre yun eh, kaya nga free throw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Had they made half of their misses, that game would have been out of reach already. Instead, they kind of allowed the Pacers to rally back from 12 points down. They're playing better defense in stretches. A lot of people thought na they'd flip the switch, automatic, they'd crush the Pacers. But if you look at it, medyo erratic pa rin. It goes on and off. It goes on and off.
Yeah.
Luckily, this time, they made that really great stop, the decision to double Paul George at the end of the game and let someone other than him try to win it. It paid off for them in that time, but if they're still playing like that, when it gets to the second round, when it gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, they might really struggle.
Dun sila baka mahirapan. So they really have to improve on that if they want to at least even get back to the NBA Finals. All right, tomorrow, don't forget, we got a big doubleheader. The Cavs versus the Pacers first at 7 a.m., then followed by the Spurs and the Grizzlies. Doubleheader treat for the whole week on SNA. So maraming salamat, Adrian Dy.
Hi guys, keep watching The Score for the latest sports updates and don't forget to subscribe to the ABS-CBN Sports in Action YouTube channel.